Welcome back. Cover One Draft Weekly. Jon Helmkamp, Daniel Harms, back on it. We had ourselves quite the conversation a couple days ago, didn't we?
We absolutely did. If you guys didn't know, we got to sit down with the director of scouting over at the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy. We had a really nice conversation. Some technical issues that ended up, working itself out throughout the day. But at the end of it, it was a nice conversation, and it is exclusively on YouTube. So if you guys head over to the Cover One College area where they have that video, you guys can all view it right there. You can also follow us, on Twitter. You can follow me at InHarmsWay19. And then my guy over here at Jon Helmkamp. Come on. We got this. You guys, today, this is it, right? We are very close to the Senior Bowl. So today what we're going to do a little bit differently, we're going to start off with recapping some of the news over the past couple of days here in the NFL and get into, our stonks up, which we got a really nice conversation for you guys about the quarterback section here.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to talk a little more about these Senior Bowl prospects, some of our favorite ones that aren't getting enough love right now. So let's start off strong. Go ahead.
There's so many guys that we could talk about. There's so many. We're never going to hit all the names, but what's great is that in 5 days, practices start, we will be there. And we're going to be bringing content from Mobile, I think daily, it sounds like. Who knows? We'll be putting out a bunch of stuff, though, when we're down there. So we're going to dive in here, starting on the NFL side of things. I think probably the biggest piece of news that has happened lately, Jim Harbaugh accepting the head coaching job down for the LA Chargers, leaving Michigan on the heels of a national championship, getting back into the NFL, going back to California, going back to the Chargers. There's so many storylines. But what is the Harbaugh signing? Well, let's start with Michigan. What's it mean for Michigan? How do you feel about your Wolverines? And then we'll get down to the Chargers.
I thought this was the last season, no matter what happened. With all the allegations, all the investigations, it felt like Jim was like, I'm just going to leave this at the doorstep, you guys. You're just going to leave it out here in Michigan, and I'm going to go figure it out in the NFL. It also kind of always felt that this team had this was the year for them. Like, it felt like they were going to win. As soon as they were in that fourth quarter against Alabama, I was like, they're going to win the national championship. They went out and they did. And Jim was like, hey, guys, I just won a chip after 9 years at Michigan. Now I'm coming to the NFL. I'm going to keep bringing my stuff there because the last thing I have to do as a coach is win a Super Bowl. So for Michigan, this is just all right. Everything's in place already. I think Sherrone Moore is going to take over as the head coach. Most people assume that as of now. Yeah. The more interesting thing that I'm looking forward to is what this means for Minter. It looks like Jim's going to try to take Minter with him to the Chargers, and we know that tree of defensive coordinators that came down from the Baltimore side with Mike McDonald, who has been fantastic there, is probably going to miss out on a head coaching job this cycle because he's still coaching right now. But next cycle, he's going to be a really, really hot name if he doesn't get one this time around. And we know that Minter did a fantastic job in the playoff, both against Alabama and Washington. Excuse me. So that's going to have a huge impact on the Chargers. So at least for Michigan, I don't think it directly impacts a ton. I also kind of secretly think that Jim was like, you guys, if you're coming here to play for Michigan, just know that next year you're not playing for me. I'm not going to be here. I think that he always meant to leave after the 2023 season. So that's what I think about Michigan. What do you think this means for the Charger side of things?
I think it's a really interesting hire. I think it's a smart hire. I think Jim Harbaugh wins wherever he goes. Yeah. This team has seemingly, and I don't have the stats right in front of me, but seemingly has lost every close game that they've played in over the last few years. It sure seems like it comes down to the last drive, to the last field goal. They're one touchdown behind something, and they just can't finish it off. I'm an Oregon guy. You're a Michigan guy. They've got Justin Herbert down there. Now they're going to have Jim Harbaugh. And if it wasn't for you being a Chiefs fan, I think you'd probably be rooting for a little more success for Jim. But I think it's going to be a really interesting fit in terms of what he can do with Justin Herbert. I feel like it's going to be a little bit more of a conservative approach. I think that he's going to want to make this kind of how he likened his Michigan team, right? Super physical, really good on defense, really good in the trenches. They're going to shore up that offensive line. I feel like that's probably going to be one of his first directives going into this class and going into the draft season, and be like, hey, we got to fix offensive line. And then naturally, I mean, Blake Corum in like late day 2 to the Chargers has to be basically written in pen at this point. They've
right.
already filled out that card. They're just waiting for when they can submit it. But it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes. Justin Herbert, for as good as he is, and he's really, really good, at times doesn't pick his spots right. Needs to know kind of when to just make the easy throw. And I think that he's going to tailor an offense for whoever is in charge of the offense. But I think the Chargers offense is going to resemble a lot of what we saw in Michigan in terms of easy completions, getting it out quick, kind of what we've seen around the league for a lot of the really successful quarterbacks is a lot of these dialed up quick hits and then allowing them to create outside of that. That's kind of what I feel like we're going to see for Justin Herbert. Mitigate the risk, play in control, know when to take your shots and when we're building towards it, right? Like this series of plays, we're setting it up. You'll get your shot, but it's 1st and 10 on the opposing 40. You don't need to roll right and throw across your body. Like, let's tone it down a little bit. I think it's going to be a really good fit. I think they're going to win some games. They're going to be competitive. I think any Jim Harbaugh team is going to be competitive, and I'm really curious to see what they can do in year 1.
Yeah, I think when I'm looking at what Jim Harbaugh has done in his past in his coaching career, I'm looking at Stanford. I'm looking at him with Andrew Luck, that type of talent at quarterback. Now, I'm not saying that Herbert is Andrew Luck. I think that there's a little bit of a difference with his physicality and his athletic ability in the run game. Now, Herbert can run the ball. He's not a bad athlete at all. I think he's very underrated in that aspect. So I'm hoping with this change in offensive philosophy that we're going to see, that it does allow him to get out a little bit more, use your legs a little bit more, because he's a good athlete at running at the quarterback position. So I think that there's always a little bit more you can get out of Herbert in these situations, but I am looking directly at that Stanford team. They're going to play tough, hard-nosed football. They're going to run the ball very, very well, very efficiently, and at the end of the day, they're going to put the ball in Herbert's hands in those games, those big games, and say, go win us the football game. Make the right decision to win those games. I mean, for some of us, we're going to have some fantasy listeners in here as well, I'm sure. I don't think it's going to be a lot of top 5 finishes for Justin Herbert at the quarterback position. But for Chargers fans, at the end of the day, like you're talking about, Jim Harbaugh wins football games. He turned the San Francisco 49ers around in 3 years, had them in a Super Bowl. This is a team that if they can figure out the injury bug, whatever happens in LA with the injuries there, if they can figure that out and Jim Harbaugh can just kind of bring in everything that he wants, because I assume he's going to be like a CEO where the GM
I get that feeling too,
reporting to him essentially,
where
you're drafting who I want, I'm telling you what to do. I feel like that's how we're going to see it. And by all accounts, all reports, that's exactly how Jim Harbaugh wants it to be and will be. So I'm excited for the Chargers fans, because even as a Chiefs fan, I love Justin Herbert. I love him. I think he's a fantastic player. And I do feel bad at times because they get so much hype and so much talent and they fizzle every single year. There's a reason they say it. Well, the Chargers are just going to charge her, because they charge her every year. This season going forward with Jim Harbaugh at the helm feels like it could be very different for the Chargers.
I'm really curious to see what they do. This roster is very interesting because they have some blue chip talents on that roster, right? You know, they have Bosa. We know they have Derwin James. Is this team going to be able to keep one or both or none of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen? Are they going to have to move on there? They're in a really bad cap situation. So are they going to be able to bring those guys back? I don't know. They have the 5th overall pick, and I think they're in a really, really interesting spot looking at the NFL draft. And we'll get to it a little bit more later on. But the draft kind of feels like it starts at 5 a little bit right now, in a sense.
Yeah.
The top 4, I think we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen early. It's only January, and things could absolutely change. But as of right now, the Chargers are the first one where they could go offensive line. They could go wide receiver. Hell, they could spring for Brock Bowers. It might be a little bit rich, but he's an elite playmaker that's going to also help a little bit in the run game. Also, I think that Jim Harbaugh loves his tight ends. I can absolutely see Bowers being on his list. They could go defensive back. They could go a variety of different ways. They could go pass rush. There's so many things that this team needs that it's really, I think, going to get interesting at what the Chargers decide to do. And I think free agency is going to tell us a lot. If they lose out on both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, if both of them are gone, it sure seems like they're probably going playmaker with 5th overall, or they're going to be a candidate to trade down.
Yeah, I think that what we're going to see, Mike Williams, bye-bye. You have been replaced essentially by, Quentin Johnston, who did not develop last year very much. And I think that with a new coach, you're going to see a little bit different techniques in development in these prospects. So there is a lot of talent in him. They just got to get it out of him. I think we're going to see a restructure of Keenan Allen's contract of some sort, because you can't lose both. Keenan Allen is the bona fide number one, and the one guy in that team that has the most trust from Justin Herbert. You don't take both of those players away in one offseason and say, hey, Justin, work with what I give you. You do it a little bit at a time. Keenan Allen proved last year he's still an elite wide receiver, especially route runner and guy that can just consistently get open. So they're going to find a way to keep him, in my mind. I don't think you let both go. But like I said, outside of that, Joey Bosa, multiple seasons now, he's been hurt. He's on the chopping block. Who knows what happens there? So, yeah, defensive back, wide receiver, defensive end, all these things are on the table. And again, maybe Jim's just like, hey, we're going to try to acquire some picks. Maybe his quarterback, JJ McCarthy, sitting there at 5, and everyone's like, hey, can he come up? He's going to say, this is the best quarterback Michigan's ever had. Come get him. We'll trade down a little bit. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what they do, because like you said, there's so many different ways they could go. And this team has talent ingrained in it, still some of this young talent. So it's very, very interesting to see what happens.
It is. I feel like playmaker has to be a top priority. I feel like if I'm putting odds on it right now, they're going playmaker on the offense.
Malik Neighbors.
Malik Neighbors, please, God. Oh, jeez. If Malik Neighbors with Justin Herbert, that would just be an incredible pair that you can build around for years. And it'd be great. Even if you keep Keenan Allen, you've got a loaded wide receiver room ready to go. It would be a terrific pick. We'll see what happens. The reason why we're saying that the first 4 picks seem a little bit chalky right now is because of this guy that we're going to talk about in the Stonks Up segment. We are going with LSU quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, Jon Daniels, who is flying up draft boards.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that we've only recorded 4 episodes together, 5 if you include the one with Jim Nagy. But we've already been talking about how quarterbacks get pushed up the board seemingly every single year, right? That was one of the things we talked about, I think, in the very first episode that we recorded.
Yeah.
And now here we go. The mock drafts are coming out from everybody, from Mel Kiper, from Daniel Jeremiah, from Bucky Brooks, from everyone. And in basically every mock draft, you've got quarterback going at the first 3 picks. And that third quarterback in some combination is Jon Daniels. Sometimes Jon Daniels is going as the number 2 overall pick. With Drake May going number 3. So Jon Daniels getting a lot of love right now. What do you make of it?
So Jon Daniels going higher than a guy like Drake May doesn't fit for me personally. What I think that we're hearing right now, there's a lot of smoke that we are getting into prime smokescreen season, especially with as many quarterbacks that have been talked about going in the first round. Agents are going to be, my guy might be drafted at 2. No, my guy might be drafted at 2, because most of these people aren't saying, they're going to go over Caleb Williams. Maybe Drake may get some of that conversation, but at the end of the day, Jon Daniels did a hell of a lot to improve his draft stock this season, not just by winning the Heisman, but showing off his dual threat ability. The downfield passing, obviously, when you have Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors, you have a lot of space to work with. So those guys can really stretch the field, can give you a lot of space as an athlete, but he is a legitimate athlete. He uses his running ability to kind of set up his elements of the pass game, right? You can do that. You can use the quarterback run game to force linebackers to be a little more hesitant, or even, safeties and corners to be a little bit more hesitant in the way they play. So the things that I'm really kind of more concerned about, it's kind of the same with Michael Penix. They don't like to throw the ball over the middle of the field. And when they do, you have some sporadic ball placement errors, not necessarily accuracy errors. There's a difference between accuracy and ball placement. Just accuracy is throwing it to the receiver, right? As long as it's there, that's quote unquote accurate. But ball placement, in stride, behind, in the chest, in the hands, too high, too low, all of that stuff is erratic. The ball placement for him over the middle of the field is very inconsistent, and we see that a lot with wide receivers, specifically Malik Neighbors, adjusting, try to catch the ball that's behind him, down low a little bit at times, or even up high. He misses all of those just in kind of consensual order all the different times. So that's one a little bit I'm concerned about. And then when the play breaks down in the pocket, he's obviously an excellent quarterback getting out and making plays happen. But if you stay in your pass rush lanes and you keep him inside the pocket, his eyes, they come down. He gets a little, I'm not gonna say scared, but it's you can see that when pressure's in his face and he has to make a play from the pocket or a second reaction throw from the pocket, it's not anywhere near the top end that we see where he's just standing in the pocket or he's on the move making a play down the field, and his arm strength deliberately comes down because you're going to get hit and things like that. So I think that Jaden Daniels, the talk in the top 3 is a little bit rich even for me still. I don't have a top 15 grade on Jaden Daniels. I think he's a fantastic player. And we know that drafts always drive up these quarterback prospects, and they're going to. I think Jaden is going to get selected in the top 5. I think he's going to. It's all a matter of who's going to do it. But right now we're seeing this guy, again, leader, won the Heisman Trophy, and is an electric player on the ground. He just is. And that's very useful in the NFL right now. So it's not surprising to me we're talking about him right now in Stonks Up.
Jaden Daniels has 2,019 rushing yards and 21 rushing touchdowns in his last 2 seasons as quarterback of LSU. It's insane, the stats that he has on the ground. The thing about Jaden Daniels, there's a lot of things about Jaden Daniels, but 5th-year senior, transfer from ASU, took a while to develop. And I think there's arguments that go both ways for that in terms of quarterbacks at the collegiate level. You love your true early declare junior quarterback, wonder kid like Caleb Williams coming out. There's also something to be said, though, about Jaden Daniels having as many starts as he has had at the college level. It gives you a maturity. It gives you more understanding, more reps under your belt. And yeah, he came on a little bit late, but guess what? So did Joe Burrow also at LSU. Sometimes it just happens where you have these players that take a little bit longer. Sometimes it's a transfer. We're seeing it more and more now. I mean, the transfer portal, getting a quarterback that's going to play 3 straight years as a starter at the college level for one school anymore, it seems like it's going to be harder and harder to come by. So you can't really hold that against him. I agree with what you were saying about some of the knocks in terms of ball placement, arm strength when he is trying to make a throw on the run that can slip a little bit. But it reminds me of the narrative surrounding Anthony Richardson a little bit last year. Very different. Anthony Richardson had very few starts. Jaden Daniels has a lot of starts. But it's an athletic, it's a mobile quarterback that can win on the ground, that's flying up draft boards, that is a dynamic playmaker, and he's a different prototype than the other quarterbacks that are in the top of the draft class. Caleb Williams is electric and a playmaker and extends plays with his eyes up, looking to make an insane throw.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels extends plays with his legs, and if it breaks down, I kind of get the feeling that his first instinct is tuck and run, and that he's going to take off, and he knows that he can win with his legs, so he's going to utilize that. Can't fault him for it. Both of those type of quarterbacks can succeed at the next level. And then you have Drake May, underrated athlete also, like what you're talking about Justin Herbert earlier.
Yeah.
Who also can give you some production on the ground. I see a lot of Justin Herbert actually when I look at Drake May. Like, they're very similar prospects to me and everything about their game. But it's all going to come down to prototype. It's going to come down to what do these teams value? Is it a team that is willing to take that electric running quarterback, or is that a risk for them that they don't want to invest in? He's listed at 6'3", 185. I don't know if he's north of 6'2". I don't know if he's north of 180. I'm very curious to see what the measurements are going to come in at when we get to the combine.
Can we just quickly talk about how he acts when he gets hit too? The guy is a cartoon.
Okay, have you ever dropped a Mento into a Diet Coke and watched it just explode? That's what he looks like when he gets hit. And that's going to scare the crap out of some NFL teams. So like, dude, you're electric and we love it. And we love your playmaking ability, but you can't take hits like this.
No. Not
in the NFL. I mean, there's times where he gets hit and like all 4 limbs just like go, he starfishes in the air, and it's scary. So that's definitely a concern. But the electric playmaking is there. He just won the Heisman. The production is there. Made a lot of great, crazy throws. Very accurate deep down the field when he has time to throw. Yep. There's a lot to like about Jaden Daniels. And I do think I think it's a legitimate thing that we might go 1, 2, 3 quarterback in a couple months.
Yeah, it's definitely not out of the question, especially in this draft class. Last year's draft class was kind of, people were surprised by Anthony Richardson. I don't think that people should be surprised by Jon and Daniels. These athletic, electric playmakers are going to be driving up draft boards, especially if they can combine them with the play caller. Shane Steichen, perfect fit for exactly what Anthony Richardson wants to do and how they want to run their offense. So if we look at 3, I'm not necessarily thinking that the New England Patriots are the ideal location for a run-heavy quarterback that's a really good athlete. And I know that Cam Newton played there, but that was Cam Newton after his prime, right? Like, it wasn't exactly what we're expecting. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen. But like you said, he's definitely flying up for good reason with the athletic traits and these quarterbacks now. Everyone kind of has to be able to run. The quarterback scramble has become the most efficient play in football. And that's just going to continue to get better as defenses try to stop really good at wide receivers that continue to get funneled into the NFL. It's going to make that even more important that guys can continue to take advantage of those spaces and take those scrambles. So yeah, definitely within the realm of possibilities, we see 1, 2, 3, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
It will be interesting. Quarterbacks get pushed up every year, like we've said a lot. We also have no idea who the offensive coordinator is going to be right now for the Patriots.
Yeah.
I think that hire is going to tell us a lot about what they could potentially be looking like. So it's going to be a fascinating conversation. We got a couple months still. Oh, I love it. I love this time of year. It's going to be so fun. Speaking of things that we love in this time of year, Senior Bowl in 5 days. This episode is our last one before we get there. So it's our last opportunity to throw some names at you and give you a couple scouting reports and some players that we feel like need a little bit more love. So this time we're going offensive side of the ball. Last week we did defense. If you haven't watched that episode, go back. We talk about some really great players on the defensive side of the ball that are going to be impact players at the next level. There is no shortage of impact players on the offensive side of the ball either. And we are not even talking about a couple of the more well-known names that you're going to hear. We tried to highlight a variety. Some top-tier names, some that are maybe sliding under the radar, and we're going to get into a couple of them. You go ahead and start with your first one here. Who do you want to dive into?
So I like to start with some of the lesser known offensive linemen. Offensive line is one of my favorite places to scout. Specifically, tackle. I do all of it, but tackle is my favorite. And this guy from Kansas is really fun to watch because he does a lot of things. He's actually started as a volleyball player. His trajectory is very different from a lot of people, but Dominic Pooney, tackle out of Kansas, number 67. He played left tackle, started all 12 games for them this season after playing guard the year before and starting all 12 games there. So we have positional versatility right off the bat, and I love positional versatility at tackle. And you didn't notice that he was a guard beforehand. Very good athlete. He gets into space well. And the one thing that I noticed is that he at Kansas is more of a jump setter at tackle. You don't see a lot of 45. You don't see almost any vertical pass sets at all. And the difference there is that the jump set, you're jumping towards your pass rusher, the guy you're trying to catch him by surprise. And then the 45, draw a 45-degree angle, you try to get into that spot, and the vertical is just straight back. So you don't see any vertical at all. You see a ton of jump sets there and very attacking in the pass pro. And when it comes to pass protection, you have to be able to work your hands. He works his hands quite a bit. You do see him open his shoulders early. He does tend to do that, and that invites inside counters. And I think that he's done a good job of adding that inside hand in the chest. And when you can locate that inside hand in the chest, when you do open your shoulders a little bit much, you can kind of use it as an anchor to bring your shoulders back, right? Like you keep that inside hand. Yeah, keep that hand to the inside. And when they try that inside counter, it brings your shoulders with him, and then you can bring your feet with him. So he's done a good job of adding that to his arsenal, and his hips are really good. Like I said, getting to the second level, this guy can pull as a tackle. You love to see that. The versatility, again, from being able to pull as a guard, he adds that as a tackle as well. So some of these power gap concept schemes that like to move their tackles or run counter with tight ends and tackles like that, you can move him as well. And the experience. He's a senior. He's started a ton of games in his career. So he has a ton of playing experience. And he was really, really good this year for Kansas. Obviously, you don't see him going up against the top premier defensive ends in college football, but he's going to get He's going to get some reps this next week against some excellent pass rushers. So he's going to get an opportunity to showcase that he can play tackle in the NFL. But I think that right now, based off of what I've seen from him, he's a guy who can push himself into day 2 of the draft with a good showing at Mobile. And that's going to be very, very impressive because we know the tackle at the top is very good. This can be a nice, deep tackle class as well. Some teams that need to get wide receiver or even defense first, you're going to find some guys here on day 2 and day 3. And I think that Pooney is in a position to put himself right in that conversation on day 2. Probably a 3rd round pick. I have him as a 4th round grade right now, but he's definitely coming up in what he can do.
He's one of those names, like all these guys. It's a great opportunity when you get to go down to the Senior Bowl and get in front of so many scouts and coaching staffs and everything. And with the mixed up coaching system that they have down there now, where it's not just one team that sends their coaches down and coaches each unit, you have coaches from all different teams around the league. I think Jim Nagy told us it was 18 teams that are being represented and coaches in Mobile this year. You have so many different coaches that can take information and insights and first-hand experience back to their war rooms to discuss draft picks. Make a good impression. It can go a long ways. Pooney's one of those guys. I love his athleticism. I love his mobility. He is a mauler when he's in the run game too, and that's something that I really enjoy. He's happy to do the dirty work. I am concerned, like you said, about some of his like oversetting tendencies to the outside. I think that is an area where he does leave himself a little bit open to exposure, but he does have athleticism to recover a little bit. So it's going to be interesting, the reps that he does have against top defensive ends down there in Mobile, and see how he's able to handle some of those counters.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him. And I think that, just getting some of this experience with the coaching, and that's like the one thing I'm really looking forward to is the coaching that these players get. How do they handle it? How do they take it from day 1 to day 2 to day 3 in practice and really use it to their advantage? Because if you can be coachable now, that's going to help them draft you, mold you, and you can get even better in the NFL.
Yeah, completely agree. I'm going to stay on the offensive line with my next name also. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a homer, but I don't care. It's Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yes.
It's the center out of Oregon, baby. JPJ. I love him so much. He was a true leader at center for this offensive line. He's a great communicator. He's great at dissecting what defenses are trying to do. He's got great hands. He is very dominant both in run and pass protection, which is something that I love about him. He had 1,337 snaps in his college career. He allowed 2 hurries, 0 hits, 0 sacks in over 1,300 reps. He is going to be a rock solid day 1 starter on the interior of the offensive line, whether you want him to play center or you want him to play guard. And he's going to contribute both in the run game and the passing game. I love him so much. Like, he's an incredible interior offensive line. He's physical. He's gritty. He just looks like a guy that can be a starting center in the NFL for a decade. Like, I love the game that Jackson Powers Johnson brings.
There isn't much else to say about him. He's a fantastic player. He won the Remington Award at 20 years old. And last season, he was a full-time starter for the first time in his career, and he only allowed 1 pressure. 1! That's it. A singular pressure as a full-time starting center for the first time. He's incredible. And I do think he's going to be an anchor at center for a very long time. We're going to be talking about him as one of the best centers in the NFL in the next 5 years. Mark my words. I really
bold, and I love it. I completely agree. I think it's funny. We're looking at Jason Kelce phasing out of the NFL, and then here comes Jackson Powers Johnson. And I'm looking at it and I'm just going, you've got that in you to be that kind of center that has such an impact in all phases of the game. He's gritty, he's durable, he's physical, he's athletic, he is just a contributor. We have some verified measurements on players, some not yet. Everything, we will have verified numbers next week down in Mobile. Listed at 6'3", 320. I think he checks out to be around there. I don't think there's any difference that's going to really pop off that's going to make it a difference by any means. He's got plenty of size, plenty of tenacity. He's an anchor. I love him. It's going to be great. And it's going to be fun watching him snap it to his guy, Bo Nix, down there too.
Dude, I can't wait to see where he goes, honestly, because center play in the NFL, very, very underrated. Talking about Jason Kelce, Creed Humphrey, some of the best centers in the NFL. And over the last couple of seasons, their teams have been in the end here, and Creed has been, in my opinion, the best center in football. Jason's been excellent, but I think that Creed's now taken over as the best center in football. And we're going to see some incredible centers over the next few years. Tyler Linderbaum right now at, in Baltimore, we're going to see him versus, Creed Humphrey. Like, this is a fantastic young group of centers that we're going to be talking about. But I'm going to go next to the guy who catches a snap or takes a snap from those centers, quarterback Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina. Now, a lot of people got off the Spencer Rattler train after his first year at Oklahoma, or second year at Oklahoma, really, after he showed all of the flashes and things like that. Then he's like, fine, you guys don't want me here, transfer to South Carolina. I'll figure it out there. Problem is, their offensive line is so bad that he literally had to do everything himself. He had to do all of it himself. So against Georgia, you're watching him, and he's, they're trying to get the ball out of his hands quick initially. And then, they're down. So Spencer's like, fine, I have to do all this myself. When I watched him, he might have, this might be a hot take, he might have the most efficient and smoothest throwing motion in the draft. I think it's incredibly smooth. There is zero wasted movement, zero wasted anything. It's quick, it's snappy. Like, he can move his lower body and his upper body so quickly to get that ball out. It's amazing to watch. There's going to be some things about his game that aren't quite there yet, but that from last year to this year, he did improve his decision making. I saw far more throwaways, natural throwaways, not trying to force a throw that didn't have to. I think that the trust with his receivers outside of Xavier Legette, who we're also going to get to watch at the Senior Bowl, was not there. He trusted one guy, and it was Legette, and for good reason. He's a fantastic player. So there's some of that as well. He has a tendency to hold onto the ball in the pocket and lock in his receivers. Again, might be more to do with the offense and the playmakers surrounding him. Saw tons of drops as well. But he can make the offensive line right. Great athlete. We'll say maybe good to great. We'll find out how good of an athlete he is. He's good at getting out of the pocket when he does sense that pressure and gets out. He can make those guys miss and then take it. He's not going to blow you away with speed like we saw Jon and Daniels. But right now, Spencer Rattler is flying up my board specifically. I think he's a really good player. I also agree with Jim Nagy's tweet earlier. I think he's going to get drafted on day 2, and I think that he's going to be a starter in the NFL before too long. He just needs a little bit of seasoning. So I'm very excited to watch him this week.
He's fascinating because early on in the college career, and even when he was like a freshman coming up out of high school and everything, there was so much hype around Spencer Rattler. He was the next coming of, Pat Mahomes, basically. That smooth stroke that you're talking about, though, he has always had that. When he wants to let it fly, his mechanism is beautiful. Spencer Rattler reminds me a little bit of Matt Stafford in the sense that he thinks that he can make every single throw on the field. He doesn't have Stafford's arm yet. He doesn't have the howitzer to back it up on every throw. I'm going to clip
that. I'm just letting you know I'm clipping that, and I'm going to put it on Twitter.
You're going to take the back half out and just be like, Spencer Rattler reminds me of Matthew Stafford. Jon Helmkamp's mentions are going to explode, and I'll be blocking people for 3 weeks or months or whatever. No, I'm not saying he's Stafford, but in the sense that he looks at throws sometimes and he goes, I can hit that. And it's like, you really can't, though. Like, you're late to it. It's, it's something that has already passed the opportunity for you to try to lay it in there. And he believes in his own arm so much, and that can be a detriment to him. He's got to learn his own limitations. And I think that's one of the main reasons why he's not being talked about as a first-round quarterback or an early first. Who knows? You never know what happens at the back of the first when people like a player and want that fifth-year option. You never know. But he's not in the top tier of the quarterbacks in this draft class, basically for that reason, in my opinion. He trusts himself too much, and he doesn't have incredible arm talent.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree slightly with the arm talent. I think it's up there. I'm not going to say he's Matt Stafford-esque because him.
Why would you? I already Herbert,
did. Herbert, Josh Allen, those guys, and Mahomes, obviously, they're that tier above. and I think that he's on the tier below.
It's good. It's just
still
not
excellent,
great.
and you can get to all levels of the field. It's just you do notice that when it's downfield, you can't really do it on a line. And that's fine. That's okay. Not everybody can do that. So yeah, he's somebody that I think is going to really turn some heads at the Senior Bowl with these players that he's going to be able to throw to. So very much looking forward to seeing him, just like I am to talk about the guy you're about to talk about.
Oh, the running back out of
Let's do it.
The University of Tennessee. We're talking about Jalen Wright. Oh God, I love this guy so much. So I'm a sucker for running backs. If you're not very familiar with me and don't follow me on Twitter and stuff like that, running back enthusiast has been in my Twitter bio for like 5 years.
Love it.
It's something that I love running backs, and they're an incredibly undervalued position at the next level. We know everything going on with the contracts right now, and why draft a running back early when you can wait? Well, this is why you wait, because you can get a guy like Jalen Wright out of Tennessee, who is built. He's great. 5'11", 205 is where I've got him right now. We'll see how he weighs in. Mm-hmm. His long speed is electric. If he gets into the open field, very few defenders are going to catch him. I think he's got 4.3 speed all day long. And when I say 4.3 speed, let me just clarify. I don't really care about the 40. It's just it's a way of identifying speed because people know what that means. He's very, very fast. The 40 to me is its own skill. It's not a football skill. I can rant about that forever, and I might during Combine Week. We'll see what happens. But Wright has great long speed, very good vision, very good agility, very good patience. His ability to change direction is fantastic. The way that he is able to transition like speed to power back to speed is something that I love seeing in a running back, right? Like when they're able to not just be at full speed all the time, but if they need to use agility or break a tackle, and then how fast can they ramp back up to their top speed? You give him like 3 steps and he's back up and he's flying again. 7.4 yards per carry this year, 4.35 yards after contact per attempt this year. Great numbers, great size, great speed. In this class where the running back position is wide open, you can make an argument for Jalen Wright being RB1, and I'm not going to tell you that you're that wrong. Like, there's just no true incredible bell cow guy at the top. Now, I don't currently have him there. I think he'll probably end up at like RB3 for me, though. I think he's a really, really strong running back that deserves day 2 draft consideration, and someone's going to get a home run threat.
Yeah, I think that he's a perfect guy for those wide zone Shanahan type offenses right now that are just running rampant through everywhere. So right now, let's look at a team, Washington Commanders, who we expect Ben Johnson to have there. Antonio Gibson, probably not coming back. We know Brian Robinson's a pretty good 1-2 down guy, but you bring that thunder and lightning in to him. That would be a perfect scheme to do that when he could recreate what's happening right now with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not saying he's Jahmyr Gibbs because he's not, but like you're talking about, those electricity plays and the willingness to continue to fight through contact. And then the reacceleration that you're talking about, it's ridiculous. When you have players like that can just kind of gear down and then just reaccelerate, those are players that you want on your team. And there's a big reason right now why backfields are 2-3 running backs is because there's so many of them and they're so different. You have all these different kinds of backs and they're useful. They're very useful. And this guy in a wide zone, I'm not going to lie. It would not shock me to see Kyle Shanahan draft another running back and this be the guy, like to be Raheem Mostert. Like that's kind of how it feels. So yeah, I love it. I love where you're going with it. And I don't disagree at all. Like you can be with this running back class, you can just have your own opinions, put your running backs where you want to. Unless you're putting people where they don't belong, like way down at 10, where they don't deserve to be there, I'm not going to have much quorum with anybody saying any of that, qualms with people saying that. So
I love what you brought up about Detroit, because that's exactly what I'm thinking about too. Yeah. He's a guy that can be that. I mean, it's almost like how Buffalo uses James Cook too. He got more workload as the year went on, but these backs that are pure electricity that aren't trying to be 20 carry a game type guys, but they can just press and make life hell for defenses and just feast in those wide zones, he would dominate in that sort of system. I love the Thunder and Lightning with Washington, and then you pair them with whichever quarterback they're inevitably taking at 2. If they don't take a quarterback at 2 or they trade out of that, I don't know what the hell they're doing. But they're, by all accounts, you go into this with Drake May and Jalen Wright, with Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson, and then you maybe beef up the offensive line a little bit throughout the draft as well. Yeah, you're starting to cook a little bit.
Be a lot of fun. Like, that sounds fun. I just talked myself into Washington's draft already. Like, we're talking about who they're going to go. Like, I'm good to go.
There's 1 out of 32, 31 left.
We're good. Right. We're good. Let's keep the running back talk going, because I've got another player that you were very upset that I put on my list first, because Marshawn Lloyd out of USC is another electricity in a bottle kind of guy. I was talking to my buddy Damian Parson earlier. You guys follow him. Most of you do, DP_NFL. He's a fantastic follow, or works over there at TDN. And I told him Marshawn Lloyd equals Travis Etienne comp ? That's what I texted him. Okay. I see a lot of similarities between Marshawn Lloyd and Travis Etienne, specifically both positives and negatives. We saw the vision in between the tackles for Travis Etienne be a problem this year when your offensive line can't make everything work for you. We also saw him take just about every little lane that he had for a touchdown multiple times this year. Marshawn Lloyd, they worked 3 or 4 backs at USC this year, so he didn't get the bulk of the work. But one thing that I loved about him is the footwork in the short area. There is a clip that I put up on Twitter of him teleporting around a guy where there's someone in his face in the backfield and he just runs. He's gone. It's that lateral agility, but he accelerates through his lateral moves. It's not just a lateral jump cut and then acceleration. He accelerates through them. They call that curvilinear motion, all that acceleration. He brings all of that. He's a good pass protector. Effort is all there. He can get in there. He's a physical guy. He's not someone that's just going to stay back and say, you can run through me. No, he's going to get in there and be a pass protector. I think he's extremely calm in the backfield when he has defenders all around. He doesn't panic. He looks to make those plays. One of the bigger problems that I have is that he's like, I see a crease out there on the outside. I could take this all the way out there and maybe not read the leverage properly, or just not take the right decision. I think his decision-making is subpar, to be honest with you. He likes to take things to the outside. He's trying to make the big play, because I'll watch a play and I can see that he sees the leverage of the defender. He's like, okay, I see what you're doing. He's patient behind the line, and then he just makes the wrong decision. He just doesn't read it right, or he just doesn't make that decision based off the read he made. So some of those are still there, but I also think he's a good pass catcher. They just don't. Caleb Williams just doesn't throw the ball to the running backs. He just doesn't. But every time that he did, he caught the ball with his hands. He attacked it in the air. So I like those things. And again, he's elusive in the open space. Like, just get in there and he can make guys miss. I love the speed. I love the acceleration. All of that stuff. I'm in.
There's something that can be learned from every drill that takes place at the Senior Bowl. It doesn't matter what the drill is. And when Marshawn Lloyd gets to do the pass blocking reps down there in Mobile that they have the running backs go through, they'll bring defenders up and they'll have the running backs step in and see how they fare in pass protection. When Lloyd gets an opportunity to do that, I'm thinking he's really going to shine. And NFL teams are going to go, this is a guy that can be on the field at all 3 downs.
Yes.
And that's great. That's what you want. It's great to have a running back that can catch, but it doesn't matter if he can catch if he can't also pass protect.
Agreed.
Because very seldomly are those running backs going to be on the field on 3rd down if they can't also step up in pass protection. Maybe the play originally calls to the running back to go run a route, but guess what? They're identifying a blitz, and they need the running back to be able to step up and pick up the extra man on 3rd and 7. Okay, Lloyd can do that. Not every running back can. So I think Marshawn Lloyd is going to make himself some money during Senior Bowl week. I think he's already on a lot of radars. He had a very, very good year. Looked great. Looked explosive. Looked agile. Change of direction is really solid. Marshawn Lloyd's a really fun running back. Curious to see how he weighs in, because he was listed at 5'9", 215, which is stout. And he looks every bit stout.
Yeah, so he looks stout.
Yeah, I'm not thinking there's going to be much discrepancy there, but I'm curious to see what his numbers are going to look like. But yeah, super fun running back. I love me some Marshawn Lloyd. We're going to keep moving, and I'm going to go to the offensive line again because why not? The offensive line is super fun. This is a name that we've thrown out a couple times already, but I'm excited to talk about him a little bit more in depth. It is the offensive tackle from Oregon State, Talise Fuaga. And Talise Fuaga is freaking amazing, and he's going to be a first-round draft pick. So some team is going to take him. He played on the right side, and I think that he's more of a natural right tackle. And I think that that's a little bit of a hard sell sometimes in the first round until you watch him play. Yeah. And you don't need him to be a left tackle if you're going to take him in the first round, because he's going to work the right side naturally, and he's going to clean up messes and make life very, very easy on his quarterback. You know what would be actually really interesting is if a left-handed quarterback team drafted him to be their right tackle.
Whoa. Do you think that there's a team out there that has left-handed quarterback that could use an offensive lineman? Do you think that's out there? You think so?
I don't know. It's possible. I don't know if he'll be available to Miami for Tua, but Talise Fuaga is fantastic. I love his game. And I know I've said that about every single player that I've talked about today, but it's true. There's so many good players that are going to be down there. Talise Fuaga has terrific hands. He has very good athleticism. He has very good tenacity, and he's a road grader as well in the run game. So he's able of cleaning up any mess. Go put on the Oregon State versus UCLA game. We've touched on it already on one of these shows, but Leatu Latu against Talise Fuaga was just so fun to watch. And Fuaga just like never blinked. He always looks under control. And I think that's one of the best things you can say about an offensive lineman. He never puts himself in a position. Well, not never. Everyone does occasionally. But seldomly does he find himself in a position where he looks like he is out of control or trying to recover something that he didn't intend to do. He has a game plan for how he goes about his pass reps and his run reps, and he looks very, very calm and under control for it. I think he's a top 15 pick. I think there's going to be some teams out there that have Talise Fuaga as their top-ranked offensive tackle in this draft class. I think that he's way up there towards the top of the board for a lot of teams. You know, we all love Olu Fashanu out of Penn State, but quite frankly, his film this year didn't look as polished as it did the year before. So I think there's going to be some teams that maybe go, oh, that's a little weird. Why do you kind of take a little bit of a step back, and maybe you have some discrepancy at the top of the board? Either way, I think we're looking at a draft class by all the mocks that I'm looking at and all the players that are out there. 6, 7, maybe 8 offensive linemen going in the first round. There's going to be so many offensive linemen that get drafted. Talise Fuaga is going to be one of them.
Yeah, I've got him earmarked to the Jets at 10 right now, to be honest with you. I think that makes the most sense, especially after what happened to Aaron Rodgers last year.
Listen, they're taking a tackle. I don't care which one it is.
Come out of the first round with a tackle, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. So I definitely have him earmarked there. I think he is a top 10 player in this draft. I think that there are 3 tackles. Maybe not. When I get through my grades, we'll find out. I don't really know where he's going to line up. He's so good that I could see him being, a top tackle, especially right tackle. At this point in the NFL, athletes are everywhere at defensive end. They're everywhere. It's not so much a huge discrepancy from left to right. It's the blind side. I understand that. But you got guys coming from everywhere. You have to protect your quarterbacks. You have to protect those $50 million a year quarterbacks. Right tackle, left tackle. Get you a stud. And Fuaga is a stud. Not just he legitimately has the strongest hands at tackle in this class. If he gets it on you, you're not going anywhere. You're not going.
You are going somewhere. You're going backwards. If he gets his hands into you, you are going for a ride.
I wrote down he's a heat-seeking missile in the run game. That guy, if he connects with somebody, it's over. Like, he's so good in every aspect, even his recovery athleticism, because he can be a bit overly aggressive in pass protection. I don't have any issue. Pass protection doesn't have to be passive. We know that. But he does tend to get a little bit over his skis, open his shoulders a little bit, can invite those inside counters. Some of the better athletes in the defensive end can be able to exploit that. But regardless, this guy is a phenomenal player. He's going inside the top 15. I have zero concerns about that. I have zero concerns about him playing tackle in the NFL. I don't know why people want to keep pushing these good players to guard. Let them be tackles. There is a huge tackle problem in the NFL. You guys watch how many quarterbacks got hurt this season because of bad offensive line play? Yeah. Keep Fuaga at tackle. Prosper. Do it.
Yes.
All right. So, last guy for me. This is one of my underrated, like more on under the radar players, because we're seeing right now kind of he's starting to get talked about a little bit more. Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver out of Florida, is one of my sleepers in this draft class. I think that he's in the mold of what we saw from Puka Nacua coming out of Boise State, or is it BYU? Sorry, my apologies. The BYU. It's funny. I have written down here used car salesman. Every time, have you guys ever been to a used car sales or a used car?
That's a great description.
Because they will try anything in the book to get you to buy this car. Ricky does everything. He sells routes multiple different ways. He makes cornerbacks believe that, yeah, I'm going vertical, and then, oh, I'm coming on back underneath. Oh, nope, I'm going to the inside. He's a fantastic short to intermediate route seller, and he can get open. He has great hands. He does not drop the football. I do have questions about his deep speed. That's fine. But you don't necessarily need to worry so much about deep speed if you have somebody on the opposite side that's already fast. Just throw him in the football. He catches it. He does run good routes. He's also an effective blocker. I watched 3 touchdowns in my specifically against LSU. They ran to his side and scored 3 touchdowns with him kind of lead blocking on the outside. So he can come out and be an efficient and effective run blocker right away for you. And I know some coaches that really love that for your wide receivers. So again, attacking the ball in the air with his hands, he lines up slot, lines up on the outside. He does all of that. So he's a player that's, I think, going to rise up boards. And this Senior Bowl, don't be surprised if he's legitimately open every single time he runs a one-on-one. Don't be surprised.
It's funny that you brought up Puka Nacua, because in my notes I have reminds me of Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
the other
players are
Rams wide receiver. Same thing. He's not going to run a blistering 40. In fact, it's probably going to be decently slow. But I don't care about that at all. His ability to sell, like you said, is great. Insanely fluid. And it's honestly, it's the head fakes that really sold me on the Cooper Kupp thing.
Oh yeah.
It's the way that he uses his head to snap routes and get these defenders to bite. He almost head fakes too much, but it's so much. And he is constantly using it and drawing defenders to bite on what he's trying to sell before breaking off and then finding himself, with 10 yards of space and no one even close to him. It's just like Cooper Kupp. You don't often know why Cooper Kupp's open, but he just is. And that's just kind of what happens with Ricky Pearsall as well. And then you go back and you watch the actual one-on-one and you're like, oh, he embarrassed that guy, not with speed, with technique and with his ability to sell. And that's what Ricky Pearsall does. We do have a verified size on him, just under 6'1", 188 pounds. Fine
with that.
No
Perfect. Perfectly fine.
All good. Yep. Check. Good. Moving on. He's going to be a really, really fun one. I completely agree with you. He's someone that I liked a lot when watching his film. And he's going to be another mid-round wide receiver that has an opportunity depending upon the scheme that he goes to. And if he has a true number one opposite of him, even better, just like Puka Nacua with Cooper Kupp. Depending on where he lands, do not be surprised. This is one of those wide receivers that has a really productive rookie season.
Absolutely.
We're going to move it on to my last player. Well, maybe my last. I might have to throw another name out there. But tight end, Ben Sinnott.
Let's go.
KSU, baby. And to me, Ben Sinnott is the tight end that I'm excited to see the most of when we get down to Mobile. He is a very natural tight end. He just looks the part. He's good in all levels. 6'4", 245 listed. Very natural, very fluid, very big, physical. I think he's a really good route runner, and he's got very strong hands. He's more than willing to catch the ball in traffic. Goes up and gets it. He plucks it. Not like he's a crazy athletic. I'm going to jump over everybody tight end. But in contested areas with his big frame, he just kind of boxes them out. It's really, really pretty to watch. I almost made another thing that you would have clipped, and I didn't say it. But one of my favorite things about Ben Sinnott is that after the catch ability, he is a freight train in the open field. Like, it looks like lions jumping on the back of an elephant trying to pull him down, where they're just like jumping on his back and like clawing and like pulling, and he's just trucking it. He's a load in the open field, and I think that he's a potential impact tight end that can contribute in the run game. He's an inline tight end. He can also split out, but this is not your like hyper athletic, just lines up in the slot type of tight end that we've been seeing a little bit in the NFL. This is someone that can line up in line, help you on the ground, help you in pass blocking, can do all of that, but is also very capable of running routes, being a friendly target for a quarterback. And what he does after the catch is very just steady, very steady presence at the tight end position. I don't think that he's going to be Travis Kelce or, he's not Brock Bowers by any stretch, but he's a very good tight end that can contribute. And depending upon where he lands, we were talking about Ben Sinnott with Jim Nagy. And he mentioned that it's kind of like Jake Ferguson for Dallas in the sense that he might not blow you away, but he's a kind of guy that, if given the opportunity, could find himself in a focal point in an offense and really thrive in that opportunity. So I think Ben Sinnott's going to be a fascinating guy to watch. I'm curious to see how he does against, defenders and stuff like that. What he's able to do out there is going to be really important, I think, to his draft stock. I hope that this is a guy that ends up getting drafted in the mid rounds. We'll see. I think the Senior Bowl is going to be pretty important for his draft stock, but I think that he's a really good player to watch.
Yeah, I love that he lined up everywhere. Backfield, out wide, slot, inline. He did all of it. I think that he's a functionally strong player, which is always good to watch when you're watching him. He doesn't look like he's getting out muscled by like defensive backs and things like that when he's blocking. So you like to see that. I also think that he could live as like a slot wide receiver, slot tight end. He has that positional versatility to him that he's not always just going to be, you have to line him up or he's in the backfield. No, you can do some different things with him. So the yards after the catch stuff is always important in today's NFL. And when you see guys that don't look out of place in space at tight end, you draft those players and you make it work, because it's always trying to find those guys that can read space. You're always trying to read space, and they play so much zone, everywhere, that when you find those tight ends that can take advantage of it, it's nice to see. So we're not going to say he's Sam Laporta. We're not going to say he's, Dalton Kincaid, but I think the Jake Ferguson stuff is very apt, and it makes a lot of sense. A guy who you can use in many different ways, and combined with the right quarterback that's going to take shots, I'm all for it. So he's definitely somebody that I'm excited to watch, and could find himself very easily being a riser at tight end in this draft with a good week at the Senior Bowl.
Before we wrap up, I just wanted to throw one more name, because when we each came up with 4.
Yeah.
And I went back and forth on the running back so much because of Amani Bailey out of TCU. And he's just another one of those hyper athletic guys that I'm so excited to see down there. I'm not going to go into the full scouting report like we just did on all these players, but I just had to say his name so that everyone that's listening, is just another name that you can just jot down and a player to watch, because he is so explosive and so physical, even at a bit of a smaller size. I think he's going to turn some heads down there.
Absolutely. I haven't seen enough of his tape to make a real opinion yet. We're still doing lots of tape watching. So
it's still early.
We'll get to see him there. I guess, throwing a name out there for me is Johnny Wilson. I love Johnny Wilson so much.
Can we talk about how they listed him at 6'7" and he's actually 6'6"? You don't have to lie about a dude that's 6'6", Florida State. 6'6" is plenty tall. What are you doing calling him 6'7"?
I don't know, but I've seen a lot of forcing to play tight end. He can live at wide receiver, but he'd be a mismatch at tight end. So just looking for a guy who's going to maybe turn some heads at his route running ability, it's Johnny Wilson.
Very excited to see Johnny Wilson. I'm excited to see how the fluidity, how the athleticism can translate for a guy he's just that big. Like, how does it work? I just need to know how it works. I just don't even understand the physics of Johnny Wilson. So we'll see how it is. Hey guys, that's it for now. This is, like we said, the last episode before getting down to Mobile. We will be bringing all kinds of content to you, and hit us up on Twitter, ask us questions. I'm sure we'll be tweeting a lot and throwing out little clips and being like, holy shit, did you see that thing that Jalen Wright just did? And we're going to be tweeting it out. So it's going to be a great time. We're so excited to get down there. So much content coming up. I mean, hey, the draft starts in Mobile. That's what they say. And we're ready to get after it. So thank you. Cover One Draft Weekly, Jon Helmkamp, Daniel Harms. We'll catch you guys next time.